In a move that has sent shockwaves across North America, former President Donald Trump has announced a bold and controversial plan: a sweeping 35% tariff on all Canadian imports. This unexpected declaration has caught both political leaders and business communities off guard, reigniting old trade tensions between the United States and its northern neighbor. Trump's rhetoric, delivered with characteristic bravado at a packed press conference, was clear. He intends to put America first by targeting what he calls unfair trade practices, regardless of the consequences for cross-border relations. The tariffs are set to take effect on August 1st, 2025, giving both governments and industries a tight deadline to prepare for what could be a seismic shift in North American trade. The countdown has begun, and the pressure is mounting as the date draws closer. This move signals a dramatic escalation in trade hostilities, threatening to disrupt the flow of goods, services, and jobs that bind the two economies together. The US and Canada share one of the world's largest trading relationships, with billions of dollars in goods crossing the border daily. Now, uncertainty looms over factories, warehouses, and shipping lanes as businesses scramble to assess the potential fallout. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney wasted no time in responding. Standing firm at a press conference, Carney vowed to defend Canadian workers and industries, making it clear that Canada will not be intimidated or coerced by US pressure. He emphasized the importance of unity and resilience, promising that his government would explore every option to protect Canadian interests. Industry Minister Melanie Joly echoed Carney's resolve, denouncing Trump's tactics as childish bullying. She expressed deep frustration with the breakdown of diplomatic norms, warning that such aggressive moves threaten not only economic stability, but also the long-standing friendship between the two nations. Canadian officials are now working around the clock to rally international support and prepare countermeasures. The mere threat of tariffs has already sent ripples through financial markets. The Canadian dollar has weakened noticeably, and stock markets have reacted with sharp declines, reflecting investor anxiety. Despite the protections offered by the QUSME trade agreement, uncertainty reigns, and traders are bracing for further volatility as the situation develops. In the midst of this turmoil, business leaders on both sides of the border are urging calm and caution. They warn that panic and overreaction could amplify the economic damage, making recovery even more difficult. Many are calling for renewed dialogue and negotiation, hoping that cooler heads will prevail before the deadline arrives. As August 1st approaches, millions of people, workers, families, and business owners are bracing for a potential standoff that could upend their daily lives. The stakes are high, and the world is watching to see whether compromise can be reached or if North America is headed for a new era of economic conflict. Trump justifies the tariff with a mix of arguments, blaming Canada for fentanyl entering the US, citing the trade deficit, and objecting to Canada's dairy protections and proposed digital services tax. He frames the tariff as a national security measure, linking it to the opioid crisis. The digital tax, targeting US tech giants, is seen as discriminatory by the Trump administration. By bundling these issues, Trump aims to pressure Canada on multiple fronts. The strategy is clear: use the threat of a sweeping tariff as leverage to force concessions. For Carney's government, the stakes are high as the August deadline approaches. Prime Minister Carney's government has forcefully rebutted Trump's claims. On fentanyl, Carney points to US data showing almost none comes from Canada. Canadian officials argue the trade deficit is misleading as the US runs a surplus in services. Dairy protections and the digital tax, they say, are sovereign policies negotiated under QUSME and in line with global norms. Canada frames the tariff threat as economic coercion, not legitimate policy. By presenting facts and defending its rights, Canada signals it won't be bullied. The government stands ready to defend its position on the world stage. Imagine a world where a 35% tariff is suddenly slapped on goods crossing the US-Canada border. This isn't just a number, it's a massive shockwave that would hit both sides of the border hard, disrupting the daily lives of millions of people and businesses that rely on the free flow of goods and services. For American consumers, this means higher prices on a wide range of everyday products, from lumber for home renovations to auto parts needed for car repairs. Even groceries and household essentials could see price hikes, squeezing already tight household budgets. Families would find themselves making tough choices, cutting back on spending, and feeling the pinch every time they shop or pay their bills. U.S. factories, which are deeply reliant on Canadian raw materials and components, could face significant production delays. Idle machinery and reduced shifts might become common, leading to job losses and uncertainty for workers in manufacturing hubs across the country. The ripple effects would be felt in communities that depend on these industries for their livelihoods. On the Canadian side, the impact would be just as severe. The United States is Canada's top export market, and tariffs would threaten jobs in manufacturing, agriculture, and resource extraction. Canadian farmers, factory workers, and miners would all feel the strain as demand for their products drops, and companies are forced to cut costs or lay off workers. If Canada retaliates with its own tariffs, U.S. exporters, especially farmers and manufacturers, would be hit hard. American agricultural products, machinery, and other goods could become too expensive for Canadian buyers, leading to lost sales and mounting financial pressure on American businesses. The result is a lose-lose cycle. Tariffs lead to job losses, closed businesses, and growing economic uncertainty on both sides of the border. Communities could see empty storefronts, longer unemployment lines, and even shortages of certain products. Former President Trump has warned of even higher tariffs if Canada retaliates, raising the stakes and risking a full-blown trade war. Such a spiral could escalate tensions, making it even harder for both countries to recover and return to normal trade relations. In the end, it's ordinary citizens, families, workers, and small business owners in both countries who would pay the highest price. Higher costs, job losses, and economic instability would become part of everyday life, all because of a trade dispute that spirals out of control. The Canada tariff is just one part of Trump's broader, confrontational trade strategy. The administration is moving away from multilateralism, favoring unilateral tariffs to reshape global trade. New duties target not just Canada, but countries like Brazil, with a proposed 50% tariff. Officials are considering raising general tariffs to as high as 20%. These moves have rattled global markets, driving up prices for key materials like copper and coffee. Trump has warned BRICS nations of even harsher measures, straining diplomatic ties. The August deadline leaves little room for negotiation, fueling global uncertainty. Canada isn't waiting for the fallout. It's pivoting away from U.S. dependence. For decades, the United States has been Canada's largest trading partner, with billions of dollars in goods and services crossing the border every day. But recent uncertainties and shifting political winds have made it clear that relying so heavily on a single neighbor comes with significant risks. Now, Canadian leaders are taking decisive action, determined to chart a new course for the nation's economic future. Under the leadership of Mark Carney, Canada is accelerating trade talks with the European Union and the United Kingdom. These negotiations are not just about increasing exports, they're about building long-term partnerships that can withstand global shocks. By seeking new markets and forging stronger ties with Europe, Canada aims to create a more resilient economy, less vulnerable to the whims of any single partner. Industry Minister Melanie Joly has been vocal about the need for change, stating that the U.S. is no longer a reliable partner. This stark assessment has pushed Canada to diversify its trade relationships, encouraging businesses to look beyond traditional markets and explore new opportunities in Asia, Africa, and South America as well. The government is also preparing targeted retaliation to protect Canadian interests, while ensuring that consumers at home are shielded from potential price hikes or supply disruptions. New policies are being crafted to support local industries and maintain stability in the face of global uncertainty. This dual approach, building new alliances abroad while defending economic interests at home, reflects a comprehensive strategy. By expanding its network of partners and strengthening domestic resilience, Canada is working to secure its economic future for generations to come. By broadening its global ties, Canada hopes to insulate itself from the volatility and unpredictability of U.S. politics and trade policy. The goal is to ensure that Canadian businesses can thrive, no matter what happens south of the border. The strategy is bold and forward-thinking, reflecting a sober assessment of current risks and a commitment to proactive leadership. Canadian officials are working tirelessly behind the scenes, negotiating deals and building relationships that will pay dividends in the years ahead. Canada is determined to emerge from this period of uncertainty stronger, more independent, and better prepared for whatever challenges the future may bring. The message is clear. Canada's destiny will be shaped by its own choices, not by the decisions of others. Trump's tariffs target critical industries with punishing rates. Copper faces a 50% tariff, threatening construction, electronics, and green energy sectors. Pharmaceuticals could see tariffs up to 200%, risking higher drug prices and shortages. A general tariff hike to 15 or 20% would hit everyday goods, from clothing to cars. U.S. manufacturers reliant on imports would see costs soar, passing them to consumers. The targeted and broad tariffs mean few industries are spared. The risks: disrupted supply chains, higher prices, and potential public health crises. The strategy could backfire, harming U.S. industries as much as foreign competitors. As August approaches, anxiety is rising in both countries. Businesses are paralyzed by uncertainty, unable to plan for the future. In Canada, workers in export-dependent sectors fear job losses and economic downturn. In the U.S., industries reliant on Canadian goods or markets face higher costs and potential retaliation. The dispute is no longer abstract. It's a direct threat to families' livelihoods. The human cost is mounting: stalled investment, lost confidence, and daily stress. The need for a peaceful resolution grows more urgent as the deadline looms. The U.S.-Canada trade standoff has become a dangerous game of brinkmanship. Canada calls Trump's tactics bullying. Trump threatens even harsher retaliation. The tit-for-tat cycle is closing off compromise, risking a full-blown trade war. At stake, decades of economic integration, millions of jobs, and North America's prosperity. The uncertainty is already chilling investment and damaging both economies. In a globalized world, trade wars have no winners, only shared pain. Wise leadership and diplomacy are urgently needed to step back from the brink.